right, Tony, let's cue up these coaches. James Laurinaitis taking over the linebackers, Matt Guerrieri as the safeties coach. They met with the media, and lo and behold, you were there.
Yeah, finally got to – this is our second time, I think, talking with James Laurinaitis since he's been at Ohio State in the last 2 years. First time since he got elevated to linebackers coach. First time talking to Matt Guerrieri. A lot of energy from both of those guys. I spent my time with Matt Guerrieri, and then afterwards I talked to the people that had talked with Laurinaitis, and they're all like, he was fired up. Like, he was fired up to be in this position. And going back and listening to the sound, watching the video, you could see the emotion that he has for Ohio State. And I just wrote about it today, his living out a dream, basically getting into coaching and discovering that coaching will provide him the opportunity to help others live out the dream at Ohio State that he got to live out. So just that kind of thing is pretty cool. It reminds me of Brian Hartline, watching him talk at a coach's clinic this was several years ago, about how he wasn't planning on getting into coaching, but it came as like a calling to him once he had worked out a little bit at Ohio State in camp and done some stuff for Urban Meyer. Like, it became this thing where it becomes bigger than you in terms of how you can help players and help kids and help people like yourself, help people that are different than you. And it seems like Laurinaitis has found that same thing, and pretty remarkable climb for him. This is now his third year in coaching, and he is a full-time position coach at Ohio State. And it seemed like a long time waiting those 3 weeks when, all last year we were talking about how you just replace him with Parker Fleming. You get rid of Parker Fleming. He takes that 10th assistant coach job. And so then when Ryan Day made the coaching moves and got rid of 3 guys and brought in 2, you're like, well, what are we waiting on? So that was a time of trepidation, concern for Laurinaitis. But he talked about how when he was out recruiting with Ryan Day in those 3 weeks between the season ending and now, basically, when he could be one of those 10 guys out recruiting because they didn't have enough full-time assistants, treating that as basically a job interview, spending time out on the road with Ryan Day, because when Ryan Day talks about what you need to do as an assistant, the first thing he says is recruit. And based on the returns that we're getting, Laurinaitis can do that. And it's been something that has not been great at Ohio State over the years. In recent years, I think Cody Simon, until Peyton Pierce committed from Texas this past year, Cody Simon was the last out-of-state linebacker that Ohio State had landed. So it's been a while since they've been able to move out of state, and I think James Laurinaitis will expand the footprint for the Buckeyes in that regard.
Yeah, I did not attend yesterday's interview session. Had some stuff going on here personally at the house, but everything I heard, very positive on both counts. James Laurinaitis said that he made no bones about it when he came back after his one season helping Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame, that he told anybody and everybody who would listen that he wanted to be a full-time assistant coach and coach the linebackers. And he says it makes a tremendous difference for him to go from being a graduate assistant whose job responsibility was to coach the linebackers to actually being the linebackers coach at Ohio State. It is a just tremendous distinction. And he said that other schools were using that actually against him and Ohio State, that he was not a full-time assistant, that he would leave for the first opportunity he had to become a full-time assistant or go to the NFL, where he could serve as an assistant coach on an NFL staff coaching linebackers. So for him, this is where he wanted to be. There was no delay on his part. It was when Ohio State was ready to make that move. And I think Ryan Day took his good, sweet time, but I think he got this one right. And I think that it looks and sounds like he's going to do a bang-up job with those linebackers. He said he wants to come out of spring football with 4 linebackers who can start and play at Ohio State, though they only play 2 linebackers at a time in most sets. I think that the smart money is probably on Cody Simon and C.J. Hicks being the leaders there. But Gabe Powers is a guy I think that you can't discount as well, that's in that group. And they've got several others as well. So to me, it's going to be interesting. I think watching this spring, does Sonny Styles move up? And this is a name that kind of fell under Matt Guerrieri's time as well. That he's the safeties coach. Does Sonny Styles start and rep at safety where he started last season, or does he come up in some sets and play linebacker? So to me, interesting. I know the fans have their thought. Put him here, put him there, and let the good times roll. But I guess we'll let the coaches sort it out. It's one thing to think about it in the hot stove league in January and February, and to dream about it. But getting out on the field and making it happen are two different things. We saw in the bowl game that Missouri was able to exploit some things with C.J. Hicks and Sonny Styles with their running quarterback at times, and just caught them a little bit unaware at times with some things that they were able to call during that bowl game. And that's part of the maturation process it takes for all these young players. So nobody is born an all Big Ten player. You have to work up to that level. And it's potential, I guess, maybe one or both those guys could play at that level this year if everything comes together.
Tony, what impresses me about what you said about Laurinaitis in particular, also Brian Hartline, even though he didn't speak this week, is that these are guys that have options, that had options after their NFL careers. We're not just talking about guys that hung around the league for 3 years, or I think not pointing at any particular person or player, but it's just natural that a lot of guys achieve to a certain level in their playing career and know, I really didn't prepare myself for anything else. I got to go into coaching. That's just the easy thing. Mm-hmm. These guys had so many options. They could have done media. They could have done traditional media, let alone what we're doing. They could do whatever they want, had plenty of money in the bank, and coaching's a grind. And it's becoming more and more one, and they still choose to do it.
Well, and with Laurinaitis, he did do the radio and the TV. He was on local radio for a year or two, was on Big Ten Network for a year or two. Basically, he talked about how football had been his life and had set his schedule for him every day since he was like 9 years old, since he was in the 4th grade. And so when he retired, it was like, now what? And yeah, he had made money, played 7 years with the Rams and a season with the Saints. And so money wasn't necessarily an issue, and he had the media stuff. But he said when he was doing the media stuff, what really fired him up was talking to the coaches, and that's what really made him decide, let me try this, because if I don't, I'm 35 years old. If I don't try it now, I'm going to think about it for a long time. He's kind of like a late bloomer as a coach, but a lot of players are, because they play. He said, I was going to play until somebody told me I couldn't play anymore, and that's essentially what happened. His body told him, and the Saints also told him. And so you get into coaching, you see how it goes, and then you realize either this is or isn't for me, because it is hours. It is, you're dealing with young people, and that could be like, everything about this is difficult, but it's also can be everything about it can be completely what fulfills you as, not as like a parent or anything, because you have your own life for that, but just fulfills the rest of you being an impactful person. And he talked about the impact that Luke Fickell had on him, Jim Tressel, Steve Spagnuolo, when he was the head coach at the Rams. And he's like, that's what I want to be. I want to be the guy that impacts those players. And sure, I want to be with them in the green room and Roger Goodell announces their name, but I also want to be the guy that they call up and say, hey, I'm getting engaged, or I'm getting married. Can you come to the wedding? He talks about that. And so I imagine, I posted a video of him talking about just what Ohio State means and what this opportunity means. Posted on Twitter yesterday. It's like, that in itself is a pretty incredible recruiting pitch as he gets going, because you can see the emotion that he has for this place, and he doesn't have to sell it hard. It's not a sell job. It's just, he is like Brian Hartline. They are living examples. They are 3-star guys, one from Minnesota, one from Canton, and they both became, NFLers and Buckeyes, and then now they're back to try to show families and players that this can be you.
They say it's been proven that if you want to be more fulfilled in life, help other people. And so that's what they're doing. Yes, they bring compensated quite nicely. It's not volunteer work, but still helping others find the way. All right, good stuff here. Buckeyes Live right here, the voice of college football. Tony, anything out of either one of these guys concerning personnel or scheme that gives you any kind of hint into anything?
Well, they're all just waiting to see what's going to happen with Sonny Styles in terms of talking with Ryan Day, talking with Jim Knowles, talking with Sonny, because one of the things that they always talk about when you're making a position move is the player has to be in favor of it. If the player doesn't want to do it, they're not going to do it. However, when you talk about, okay, Sonny, if you're going to stay at nickel, the defense is better at nickel when Jordan Hancock is probably out there in terms of there's going to be more passing than running, and you're more of the run nickel than the pass nickel. So you can be that nickel or Sam and play, I don't know, a quarter of the time, or you can be a Will and play 90% of the time. So I think it's just going to come down to Sonny and his family and the fit and deciding that my future, my present should be here, combined with the playing time options. So if he stays at safety, he's not going to play as much as he would at linebacker, and then sometimes that's enough. That was what I think that was what triggered Cade Stover to move again to tight end, was the opportunity to play sooner. Chip train him. Like, that's really the impetus behind a lot of these guys moving positions. But wherever they put him, he can do multiple things. And as James Laurinaitis said, he's a weapon. So Laurinaitis also said every coach wants him. So, whether it's defensive line, whether it's secondary, because he can do a bunch of different things. And that's going to be part of the process of this spring, is figuring out exactly what he can do and how to use him, because that was something that Jim Knowles told me last spring. They're going to experiment with how to use Sonny. Now they have a pretty good idea. Now it's about, his comfort level, the comfort level of everybody else. And, the defense is really good with Jordan Hancock out there. And so if you take him off the field at times, you might be limiting yourself. So it seems it would just be easier just to put him at will, but you've got other guys there as well. And it wouldn't, there's still a competition. So that's the biggest thing for me right now, is just figuring out where he is going to be. And we'll see, because it's not going to be a light decision.
Kevin, did you sit down with Matt Guerrieri and James Laurinaitis? Were you part of that discussion?
Yeah, I focused on James Laurinaitis, as Tony was more involved over with Matt Guerrieri. I think he kind of bounced around a little bit, but I was putting the Laurinaitis video up live. We already knew that he was a tremendous interview, and he's done nothing to hurt that status. I mean, let's not forget he has some media experience as well. Very excited to get his own office. He's not going to be essentially in the pit with I don't remember what the term that he used was the 6 others, or the total of 6 guys. But having some of your own space, I think, is a sign of status around there at the Woody. I did ask him what his favorite moment of the Bill O'Brien era was at Ohio State, and he laughed, and he's like, I didn't really interact with him all that much, but I do have some NFL memories, and they had like a joint practice when he was with the Saints, and said that it was probably the toughest thing that he'd gone through, and really made him kind of question if his body was able to keep up with the demands of all of this. He viewed being out on the road recruiting with Ryan Day as a job interview. Obviously, that job interview went well. And then all of the stuff that everybody wants to talk about. Is he lobbying to get Sonny Styles in his room? Well, I think everybody in the defense would be lobbying to get Sonny Styles in their room, and things of that nature. So Ohio State certainly, in my opinion, hit a home run with this Laurinaitis hire.
Sure appears so. Comments and questions are always welcome, folks. Do we know what the first day of spring practice, where that lands?
March 5th.
March 5th.
Tuesday. Yes. Around 8:30 in the morning. Hopefully we will be there. We shall see. Generally we are for that first practice, because nothing can be reported that will derail the season in terms of scheming and scouting and things like that. So it's a safe time for us to be there. Actually, the first 2 practices, and then they'll go on spring break for a week. So I would anticipate us being there Tuesday and Thursday when that starts.
So, of course, the news, the action on the field, all those things are going to somewhat pivot you guys in one direction or another. But you guys have an idea, of course, where you're going to be looking. So, besides the obvious choices, is there anything? So, go down to number 7 on your list, Tony. Is there anything out there that you are going into the spring practice thinking, I'm going to keep my eye on him or that or this over here?
I think right guard is a situation to. I mean, that's the lone starting spot open on the offensive line. Although Seth McLaughlin coming in to perhaps take the center job from Carson Hinsman. Ryan Day talked about how maybe Josh Fryer will slide over. They'll get a look at him at right guard. So I'm just interested to see how that right guard, right tackle situation bears out. And I like to remind people that Josh Fryer was first team All Big Ten last year. So it's not like he's terrible, but you want your best 5. And if you can find somebody better at tackle, you'll do that. I'll be interested to see that how things go in the spring at right tackle and right guard, and if they end up going into the portal, which wouldn't shock me either for another lineman. But obviously, you can't do that until after the spring.
Has anyone brought up any UCLA players as being viable targets? Have you heard of anyone in particular?
Not really on the line. I think we all went through at the moment that Chip Kelly left a look, and everybody turned their attention back to Ozzie Trapillo at Boston College. So that's, I think there are some players for UCLA that could get some interest from other schools, but not necessarily at a position of need for Ohio State.
Anything as you prepare for spring practice, Kevin?
I'm just ready to get to spring practice. I got to go to the NFL scouting combine here in a couple
right.
in a couple few days. So that's just so far away. I know I should start preparing, and I'm sure coming up here soon on Big Me Kickoff, I will do a show talking about the storylines I'm most interested in for spring practice, but I have not gotten there yet. It is still February for me.
Steve, anything for you? And then, of course, as Kevin mentions, you're headed to the NFL Combine before that.
Yeah, going to the Combine next week, and then spring practice starts the week after that. Tony mentioned the offensive line. I think that's obviously going to be an area to watch and just see how those guys hold up again against going against a really good defensive line. I think the linebacker group, which we've touched on a little bit here, the safety group, secondary appears like it's going to be one of the best in college football if it comes together. So all those things. If Tony mentioned the offensive line, I'll take the defense and just say, there are a few questions at each level, building some depth up front on the defensive line, and then finding difference makers at linebacker, and then just kind of settling the rotation perhaps in the secondary. Do you play 3 corners and 2 safeties as they finish the year? Do you go back to 3 safeties and 2 corners and just rotate your 3 really good safeties, 4 really good safety or corners rather? So to me, it's going to be a lot of fun, I guess, just to watch all that this spring. And I know that, again, fans are eager, and you can't get to August till you do March 1st. So it's going to be a process to build this team. I mean, on paper, it looks like, one of the top 2 teams in the country going into the season, but they got to have a great spring and install the offense and take the offense in a new direction. And certainly with defense, make the changes that need to be made so that you win those nut crunching games at the end of the year, like Michigan or Georgia or whoever it may be, Oregon, USC, whatever, the Big Ten comes down to. So to me, I think you've got to be excited, but understanding that it's more of a work process than anoint them as national championship team process. So that's kind of what I'm into, looking at the month of March and April.
What's going on over there at Bucknuts this week?
Well, my boys shocked the world on Sunday, beat Purdue, and number 2 ranked team in the country, down to defeat. I did a story about the stretch run, 5 games left with the interim coach Jake Diebler, and 3 of them on the road. Ohio State's lost 16 straight road games dating to last season. They're back on the road Thursday night, Minnesota. So we're going to test this newfound fame and fortune very quickly for this team. Will they build off the great spirit of the win over Purdue on national television, or will they give a lot of that momentum back with a school record 17th straight road loss it would be if they lose to Minnesota? So, and then frying pan to the fire at Michigan State on Sunday. Said Michigan State just lost last night to Iowa. They're going to be pissed off. And Izzo doesn't lose 2 home games in a row very often, I don't think. So frying pan to the fire on Sunday. But basketball is the big thing right now. Recruiting, Bill Kurlick, our guys all over that. They're making offers. I guess Chip Kelly offered a 2026 quarterback from California that maybe he had been acquainted with, and is supposedly one of the top players in 2026. And so, we'll see. That was one of the big questions in my chat on Monday was, how's Chip Kelly as a recruiter? And I said, they didn't hire Chip Kelly to recruit nobody. They got great quarterbacks. They got 2 of the top 5 quarterbacks in the country in 2024 who are going to be freshmen. Then they got Tavian St. Clair, whose stock seems to only rise every week with every camp and combine he goes to. He comes back with another trophy or another award for this, that, or the other. And his ranking, he's now like 50th overall in the country, something like that. So they're good at 2025. And 2026 is the next time you're looking to get a top flight quarterback. And Ryan Day, I mean, they put a thing up on the screen. Ohio State has had 3 first-round NFL draft quarterbacks in the last 8 years or something. Kids aren't stupid, so I don't think it matters what Chip Kelly does. They're going to continue to recruit great quarterbacks at Ohio State. What he needs to do is I kind of counsel the Heartline. He's got to get involved with Fry and go find him some offensive line. That's what they need.
Tony, what's going on with you this week?
Finishing up a series on looking back at the 2023 recruiting class individually and what they did, what each of the players did last year and what they're in line to do this year. I got one more to go on that one, but also dropped a story today on James Laurinaitis, just talking about the opportunity he has living out his dream as being an Ohio State linebackers coach. And I think maybe at some point this week, I'm going to try to get to Quinshon Judkins film, closer look type of thing. Posted the Caleb Downs one this past weekend or late last week at BuckeyeHuddle.com. And so now it's Quinshon Judkins and then Seth McLaughlin after that, trying to get these done before spring ball starts. So I've got to get to it, because once that starts, everything else stops. So that's at BuckeyeHuddle.com. And of course, the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. We're doing our positional previews. We're going to record today looking at the linebackers and safeties, since we just got done talking to those coaches.